I need you to understand something before anything else. Nothing felt wrong at first, and that's what scares me the most when I think back. My name is Maya, and the night everything went sideways was supposed to be as predictable as breathing. 26 years old, living in a neighborhood that pretended to sleep at 11, but always buzzed underneath. The kind of place where people said things like, "You're safe, don't worry," as if saying it made it true. It was 1:12 a.m. when my shift ended. A cold April night pretending to be warm, puddles flashing city lights like broken mirrors. I tossed a half-eaten takeout box onto the seat, opened my rideshare app, and watched the little blue dot pulse, steady, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of pixels. A 30-minute ride home. I'd done it 100 times. You trust the dot. You trust the picture. You trust the rating. The silver sedan that rolled to the curb looked exactly like the app said it would. Same plate, same model, same cheap lemon air freshener dangling from the rear view, swaying gently as if the car had been moving just a moment before it arrived. I matched the photo, the driver's soft smile, a little off-center, but harmless. Harmless. I remember thinking that word specifically. "Hi," I said, sliding in and buckling up. Gray fabric seats, faint coffee smell. Everything perfectly, painfully normal. The driver asked the usual, "Where to?" in the exact neutral tone of someone who has said that line more times than their own name. We merged into the main street, the heater clicking on with a tired hum. The GPS drew that familiar blue path toward my apartment. Straight, left, right, home. Routine, comforting routine. For the first 5 minutes, he was the definition of uneventful, polite, quiet, small talk floating in and out like background noise. I watched the GPS dot move along the route, the digital heartbeat of a safe ride. Then the first warning came, soft enough to ignore if you wanted to. He took a right when the app said left. My phone rerouted immediately, the calm blue line bending into a shape I didn't recognize. "Shortcut," he said, eyes locked on the road. "Traffic." At 1 in the morning, on an empty street. I forced a smile, that thin, brittle smile women use when they're measuring the distance between fear and politeness. Oh, okay. But I didn't take my eyes off the route. The blue line on my screen looked less like directions and more like a question mark now, like the map itself was confused. Then came the second cue, the one that forced my pulse into my throat. A movement in the rearview mirror, quick, small, low. Someone shifting in the back seat behind me. Except no one was there. I stared at the empty seat, then at the mirror, then back at the seat, trying to catch a shadow in the act. The reflection showed nothing but my own eyes, wide and shiny in the dark. Probably a passing car, I told myself, except there were no passing cars. The street we turned onto was wrong. Not dangerous wrong at first, just empty in that way that feels intentional. Storefronts locked and dark. A single flickering street lamp struggling to stay alive. The driver hummed along to a song I didn't recognize, until he stopped humming the instant we entered the dead stretch of road. His hands tightened on the wheel. The blue dot kept moving, and the knot in my stomach finally stopped pretending to be small. That was the moment I understood. Something was off, and it wasn't just the route. I started noticing more things, small things, but close enough together to feel like a warning. His app profile wasn't new, yet there were no recent rides. The rating was good, but empty. A thin crack in the dashboard caught the passing streetlight like a vein. Then the map glitched again, a full second of frozen blue, and when the route recalculated, he spoke too slowly, as if adjusting to the lie he was about to tell. He asked, "You okay?" Polite tone, but beneath it, a smile I couldn't see. I said, yeah, even though every part of me was tightening. Mini gancho sutil de retención. The third red flag wasn't something he did, it was something he said. He looked at me through the rear view and asked, "You ever see someone sitting behind you who doesn't show up in the glass?" A pause, like no reflection. He let out a thin laugh, like the joke wasn't meant to be funny. I forced a smile back. I didn't answer, because now the empty seat beside me didn't feel empty anymore. I tried to rationalize some trending meme, some creepy internet challenge, but then he reached up to adjust the mirror. His fingers brushed the lemon air freshener, and for one split second I saw his hand in the reflection, and beside it, nothing. No seat, no silhouette, no reflection where a passenger should have appeared. A cold sting climbed the back of my neck. I sent my roommate a coded text, "In a ride, plate 7HJ3L. She responded instantly, "Okay, leaving the kitchen light." I enabled Share My Ride. My thumb hovered so close to emergency call, it trembled. The map glitch grew worse, spinning, recalculating, searching, like even the GPS didn't want to be here. "Can you go a little faster?" I asked. Soft, neutral, as if speed was the least threatening thing I could request. He pressed the accelerator. The car glided forward like a coin rolling downhill. He started talking again, small talk, harmless at first, then switched to questions that felt traps. "You ever go places by yourself?" "Yes," I said. He smiled in the mirror. His eyes didn't. "You live alone?" The question landed sharp. I hated how vulnerable it made me feel. "Yes," I said. He didn't say why he asked. I didn't ask why he needed to know. We turned onto a street with no pedestrians, no movement, no sound except the hum of the engine. The map spun again. Then he leaned forward as if pointing out a turn and said, "You'd be safer if someone rode with you sometimes." No threat in the words, but in that moment the sentence felt like an order. I looked down. My knuckles were white around my phone. My pulse was loud enough to hear. "I'd like to stop at the next gas station," I told him. He cut me a glance, his mouth twitching into what might have been a smile or the attempt at one. "There's none for a while," he said. On my phone map, 2 streets away, I saw the square outline of my apartment building. "I can get you there," he added. Perfectly normal words, but his tone had changed, just slightly, carrying a thin, wet thread of insistence that made me push back against the door as if I could make more space between me and him. And the worst part? The reflection in the mirror still showed nothing beside me. The next stoplight became my escape hatch. When he slowed for the red, two students drifting lazily across the crosswalk, I wrapped both hands around the door handle and pushed it open. The cold slapped my face. The air felt thin and metallic in my lungs. He didn't shout. He didn't lunge. He just let me go. The car rolled forward like nothing had happened, passing me slowly. Only once did he look back. His face in the rear passenger window was flat, unreadable, almost like he was practicing neutral. The lemon air freshener swung with a soft, mocking rhythm. Mini gancho implicit. But getting out of the car wasn't the same as getting away from it. Later, I filed a report through the app. Plate number, screenshots, timestamps. The response came back cold and scripted. We take safety seriously. We'll investigate. Then the non-emergency police line placed me on hold. The operator tossed words like possible spoofing and non-reportable event, as if they were dust she needed to brush off her desk. There was a wide, echoing space between what happened and what anyone could do about it. After that night, I stopped treating the blue GPS dot like protection. I started checking reflections compulsively, mirrors, windows, even the black sheen of my phone screen. Sometimes, in the back of a bus or cab, a shape in the glass would shift and my breath would stutter, the memory replaying itself with perfect clarity. I built a ritual. Plate, driver photo, route, rideshare timer, share location. It felt like drawing chalk circles around myself, thin, maybe meaningless, but better than stepping in unmarked. Mini gancho lev. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. A few months later, I missed the last train after a late gallery opening. My friend Aaron walked me to the corner, waited with me, watched the car pull up. This ride began like any other. 3 stars, soft-jawed driver, a 2012 sedan that smelled like someone tried too hard to mask old smoke with vanilla. The air freshener this time was shaped like a pine cone. Patterns repeat. Your mind clings to them when it's building a warning system of its own. He was easy at first, chit-chat, mentions of the gallery, laughter in the right places. The map showed a perfect, harmless 10-minute drive. He followed the route with a kind of preparation, like he'd memorized it long before I got in. The first off-cue arrived when he tapped a button on the console. The child lock light flicked on. "Just keeps the door from popping open," he said casually. I asked why it mattered now. He laughed. The laugh stayed in the car long after the sound had stopped. Microganch. But the second cue was the one that iced my bones. My reflection vanished. It sounds impossible, dramatic, exaggerated, but it happened cleanly. One moment, my face was faintly there, blurred by city light. And then it wasn't. Behind me, in the rear view, someone was sitting where no one had been when I entered. A shape, hunched, hands clasped. A dark jacket that seemed to absorb light instead of reflect it. I turned my head, just slightly. My reflection returned for a heartbeat, then disappeared again. And the shape remained. The driver didn't acknowledge it, didn't look back, didn't flinch. When I cleared my throat, he simply said, "Old stories." Like that explained anything at all. I tried steering the conversation toward harmless topics, work, neighborhood changes, like tapping the hull of a boat to check where it leaks. He answered, but each reply was shorter now, trimmed down to bone. Even the GPS seemed to glitch in sympathy. The blue dot would skitter across the map, vanish for a blink, then snap back 5 houses. GPS acting up, he said. City signal goes weird at this hour. The casualness sounded borrowed from a stranger's script. I kept the phone plugged in, watching the blue dot like a small, unpredictable animal. The third cue wasn't sound. It was direction. Instead of taking the avenue to my building, he eased the car into a maze of industrial loading docks. Only one lamppost worked, half alive, buzzing with a horizontal smear of light that made the warehouse doors glow like cardboard props. He slowed. "Gotta hit the back roads," he said. "Less cops." Less police. For who? The car crawled into a stretch with no sidewalks, no storefronts, no witnesses. Just the clatter of an empty freight yard and the echo of our tires. I tried the door. The child lock held. It's a strange kind of terror, the realization that a simple plastic switch is enough to define whether you're in transit or not allowed to leave. Panic works fast. It doesn't give you time to catastrophize. It gives you a choice and forces you into it. I tried the handle again. This time, I felt the lock settle deeper, as if he'd reinforced it. "Stop the car," I said, loud and sharp. "Not yet," he replied, not angry, just claiming the moment. My phone became a flashlight. In the glass reflection, his profile trembled in fragments of streetlight, straight nose, clenched jaw, expression unreadable. I looked for my own face in the dashboard glow, and something strange twisted in my chest. It felt like I was being looked at, not seen. Leaving didn't happen like in movies. It never does. I faked a call. I hit redial on Aaron, thumb shaking, until the line connected. His voice filled the car, real, warm, alive. The driver's eyes flicked to the console. I spoke loudly, breathless, pretending I was meeting someone at the corner, pretending I'd left a door open, pretending I had anywhere else to be, anything to build a scene where I wasn't alone. Confidence leaks when someone else's voice enters the car. He didn't like the intrusion. It disrupted whatever rhythm he'd been building. When we reached a frontage road by a 24-hour laundromat, swimming in flickering fluorescent light, he pulled into a slot and shut the engine off. "You okay?" he asked now, voice gentle and hollow, like he'd read the line off a teleprompter. The lock snapped open. I stepped out instantly. The laundromat's harsh lighting felt like an interrogation and a rescue. Inside, someone was folding towels. Normalcy has never looked louder. I reported the child lock through the app, added the detour screenshots. The reply was the same neutral heartbeat. "We will investigate." Investigate until the real moment, the human terror, gets filed away and forgotten. I didn't sleep. For weeks, the memory clung to me. That dark shape in the reflection behind me, the jacket that absorbed light, the way my own face seemed to flicker in and out. Maybe it was glass distortion, maybe poor lighting, maybe exhaustion. But the point isn't what it was. The point is the feeling, the unmistakable sense of being observed by something that wasn't fully there. Safety takeaway. Check child lock indicators before settling in. Ask immediately if something looks wrong. Keep your phone visible and active, timer or call running. Choose well-lit drop-off points. If a driver suggests avoiding police or taking isolated back roads, insist on stopping somewhere public. Preserve evidence, screenshots, route deviations, plate number. By the third ride, I started noticing plates the way people notice omens. This next one was for a 2 a.m. pitch. I was overtired, over-caffeinated, and rehearsing lines silently in my head. The ride arrived. A dark crossover, low-profile bumper, faint citrus oil scent. The driver, older, soft voice, hummed vintage pop between radio static. Competent. Calm. The kind of driver you wouldn't pick out of a crowd. My app showed a steady, predictable route. I slid in, seatbelt clicking, phone resting on my lap like an amulet I'd learned to trust more than people. Early in the trip, barely 2 blocks from my building, an SUV flashed its high beams and angled toward us. In any other context, it would have been background noise. Cities breathe cars. But the driver's reaction wasn't noise. For the briefest flicker, his face went hard, like a shutter snapping over a thought. He whispered toward the car's internal mirror, almost reverently, "That's the one." A sentence that shouldn't have meaning suddenly felt like a threat wearing a disguise. The SUV drifted away. My driver resumed his calm narration about a supposed route closure, his voice smooth again, the kind of smooth that makes you distrust silence. The GPS line stayed steady. My blue dot marched forward as if nothing in the world was wrong. Until the off cue snapped in as something digital. My phone pinged. "Your ride is arriving." Except I was already in a ride. And this new request had my name, my pickup point, my destination, an exact duplicate of the trip I was currently taking. I stared, the blood in my face cooling to something metallic. Duplicate ride requests happen. Glitches happen. So do account clones, spoofed plates, phantom drivers. I asked him to confirm his plate. He recited it slowly. M9BX2. But the way he said it felt practiced. I told him about the notification. He shrugged it off. Probably just a glitch. The app gets weird this late. On my screen, 2 versions of my route crept down the streets, one ahead of us, one trailing behind. He started humming again, a soft, tuneless hum. Then he added, almost casually, "Sometimes people clone the app," as if cloning the app were equivalent to a flat tire. My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" He explained it in the tone people use to describe long lines at the DMV. Duplicate plates, copied profiles, drivers who weren't really drivers, riders intercepted before they realized what was happening. He wasn't warning me, he wasn't comforting me, he was stating a fact of his ecosystem. The city outside compressed into something tight and watchful. Another SUV, the same one, reappeared behind us, matching our speed, lingering too long in the reflection. "They like to follow for a bit," he said. The light turned green. The car surged forward. He took an exit that wasn't in the route. My map jerked to keep up. The blue dot dragged like a puppet on a string. It felt like the car and the GPS had begun a private conversation, one I wasn't meant to understand. I watched for the first safe place. the first witness, the first light. When a bodega appeared, its flickering sign buzzing like a warning, I acted. "Let me out here," I said. He looked at me in the mirror, expression unreadable. "You sure?" I opened the door before the question finished. The cold hit me like a clean slap. The bell above the bodega door groaned as I stepped inside. A clerk looked up, real, alert, human. The SUV idled past the storefront, slowed, watched, then sped off. My driver waited a beat, then vanished down the street. I stood under the fluorescent lights, hands trembling around a paper cup of cheap coffee, the adrenaline shaking me from the inside out. The app responded a day later with a neutral message about possible spoofing. The police logged the information without promises. By the time I checked the street again, I saw a near-identical car, same model, almost the same plate, off by one letter. I took a photo, and in the time it took to upload it, it was gone. That night twisted the metaphor of reflections into something deeper. If a plate can be copied, a name faked, a route duplicated, then what anchors a sense of safety at all? For me, it became ritual. A connected phone call, a clear look at the driver's face, a willingness to step out immediately into light and people if anything felt wrong. Safety takeaway. Duplicate ride notifications are a red flag. Verify the plate and driver before entering. Keep a call active and visible. A human voice changes the dynamic instantly. Exit only where people are present and lights are bright. Document everything, screenshots, plates, anomalies. Spoofing is real. Treat it as possible, not theoretical. Over time, I carried a small flashlight, checked reflections without shame, stood on curbs as if reading omens. People said, "You'll get over it." Fear doesn't vanish. It settles. You learn to shape it. And sometimes, even now, when I walk past a dark shop window and see my face reflected back, I wait a fraction of a second to make sure only my face is there. Because that night taught me the truth. Attention can save you, and attention is a skill. There are more stories, stranger, smaller, shared among friends like whispered navigational instructions. Lena's driver who asked her to close her eyes just for a second. Aaron's two-car shadowing. A driver who waited outside someone's building long after the ride ended. A plate that didn't match by one digit. A smell that shouldn't have been there. They all followed the same blueprint. A detail, an escalation, a choice, and an aftershock. But those are stories for another night. If you want to hear them, you know where to find me. And before you go, this is for you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the new horror stories I post every single day. Stay safe, stay aware, and always, always check the reflection.